You're watching HCAM TV.
Hello, Hopkin, and welcome to the Thursday edition of the Hopkinton Hangout Hour. I'm Mike Terosian, your host today. Today is Thursday, July. Yeah, I wish it was still June. July 16th. And today is, being Thursday, is our new weekly update from the Board of Health. And with me today, joining me as a co-host is Bob Hamilton. And
I look forward to it, Mike. I always like to know what's happening with the virus.
So with that, and we have our experts leading the fight, front lines, Shaun McAuliffe and Kasey Mauro. How you doing, guys?
Very good, thank you. Kasey, muted. Oh.
That's all right.
There we go.
There you go. Excellent.
You think by now I would know how to do a Zoom.
I just want to know, why do you get always stuck out in the hallway, Kasey?
I'm not a director level.
Oh, okay. All right. I was just wondering. Okay.
Just a nurse.
Just a nurse. You can't say just a nurse today. That's not the same.
No.
All right. Well, thank you guys for coming in. So a few things happened this week here. We've had some new things happening, and you guys are full into camp is running. So give me an update. What's going on?
Kasey is the best one to talk about the camp because she really sat down with Parks and Rec and helped them get everything going because, camp Parks and Rec historically hasn't had to operate under or within any of the camp regulations. So this was a new venture for them. So Kasey, you want to pick up on that?
Oh, yeah. So, I helped Parks and Rec get started and, they're a week in and I feel like things have been going great. Like I said, the week before that, even the counselors said that the kids were so well behaved. It was the best behaved group yet. So, they're using the protocols that are in place. And if there is any question about whether or not somebody should be at camp, they're having those questions met by using the screening tool. I feel like, the program is successful. I see the kids. I've stopped by a couple times. They're compliant. They're wearing their masks. I think they're enjoying themselves. And I'm really proud of how well everything has been going in both the Park and Recs program and then also at HCA. They are also doing a summer program and I help them put their stuff together. I'm just really, really happy with the way things are going. I think it's a good step to whatever normal is going to look like.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you because I do see the new normal being a face mask all the time. It's like, it's going to be second nature as to putting sunglasses on in the sun, putting, the windbreaker on when it's windy, whatever. I think it's every day. It's just going to be the new thing. And I'm looking forward to all the different styles coming out now. And I'm going to start seeing the TV
Target
commercials.
Just came out with some really nice ones. Target had some I follow a bunch of the Target fashion on Instagram and the kids have some really cool patterns that are coming out, dinosaurs and stuff. And yeah. I've been starting to look at some resources on mask wearing for kids, because I'm thinking about my kids going back to school and, prints and making it fun and just overall modeling good behavior as a parent is going to make it easier for kids to go back to school and participate in camps and stuff, wearing a mask and not having issues. So,
so do you think
there? It's a big culture change.
So I can see now when you go to Target, all the end caps for back to school will be a whole mask section, I'm sure. And
there already is. Yeah, there's already a whole section.
Wow,
and
that's amazing.
I was going to say similar to you were saying wearing a coat and whatever. That's one of the things that we've been sitting down with, certainly restaurant staff, bartenders, people that are working out of doors. As the season changes, there's a need to switch from, maybe a heavier cloth mask that may actually provide some warmth to a lighter fabric or I just received notice that I got my gaiters just came in. So they're lighter face coverings that are a little more forgiving in the hot sun. And I pick some up for both my wife and kids, and it's something that we can bring to the beach and not really worry about overheating, or we can pull them down. We might all have an odd white stripe around our neck after leaving the beach, but
Some funny tan lines.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Instead of the big wraparound glasses,
Yeah,
tan lines,
perfect
you're gonna.
here.
That's gonna be great.
I've had some unusual tan lines this year, and it's all COVID related.
I haven't had any sun at all. I've been in this house. It's hard. So let me ask this question. Now, we have, with Snappy Dogs just reopening last week, we now have every food establishment open, with the exception of Marathon, which just closed. I believe Marathon Pizza is selling or
Right.
sold. So
They're about to reopen.
they're about to reopen. So we have everybody open. And so are you doing, like, do you have to do spot checks? Have you heard any complaints from citizens? How the restaurant's doing?
So, I mean, this is an interesting issue that, there is a notice or an advisory that we are to put off food inspections until about January 2011. But there's a regulatory requirement for us to get a certain number of inspections done each year. So, we've actually reached out to the legislature and the DPH for consideration of a waiver, allowing us to modify the way that we do inspections so that we're limiting our exposure and the restaurant's exposure. So I guess to address your question, we haven't done many. I just opened up Cousins Maine Lobster at Weston Nurseries. That was the most recent inspection I did. And what we did during the months of April and March and April, we completed verbal inspections, just assessing how people were coping with the modifications. We had received a couple complaints back in that March-April timeframe where, the advisory from the DPH was if they're not able to comply with basic sanitary standards, you should consider closing them. So that was a strong impetus for them to get with the program. And then we haven't had any food safety issues brought to our attention since then. And now it's dealing with, COVID and just the mask wearing and again, getting back to this, we've had a couple complaints where staff or kitchen staff might not have been wearing a mask or may have pulled it down below their nose. And then when we've gone in and had discussions with the staff, it's really because they're overheating. And then, you have that educational moment, you offer them suggestions on using lighter masks. And generally speaking, we've had good compliance there. But, one thing that we're reminded constantly is that these COVID regulations run parallel to the health to our health regulations. So we are not to consider like pulling a permit because someone isn't following the COVID guidelines. It's a different track. Right now it's strictly educational, but as we move further into July and into August, the state has advised that we move towards more of I wouldn't say take a punitive stance, but to consider the fact that, we've given establishments the months of June and most of July to fall in compliance. And now if they're still having difficulties, we are to consider bringing, financial violations.
Well, yeah, because for the most part, you're not there just to write citations and pull permits or anything like that. You're there to educate, basically,
Right.
in everything you do. You make sure the code is met, and I mean, but I'm sure you do have those ones that, oh yeah, listen, every time we come here, it's the same thing.
But-
You might have that, but for the most part, you're out there to educate, and people are more than happy to do what they need to do.
Right. And what I always tell people is that, our primary role, and it's always been my approach, that my, I am your free public health consultant. So my job is to help you run a safe business. And if I can help you run a safe and profitable business, that only helps ensure the fact that you're going to have the resources to put towards pest control and proper sanitation and proper education and training. So it's in my interest to make sure that your business is as successful as I can make it, and I can assist you. Um, so it's a partnership here, and that's the way that we're addressing, and we're taking this COVID education and this whole COVID readjustment to the retail and restaurant environment. It's not easy. Um, there's a lot of new regulation and new issues and ever changing issues to
Sure.
address. So, um,
So I just noticed, I get you the daily updates on from the town, and I was nice to see that the DPW is starting the white metal collection again at the last Saturday of every month. You can bring your white metals to there. That must help. I mean, this time, I mean, what's going on? I know trash is a DPW thing, but from a health standpoint, are we seeing more and more stuff on the sides of the road, such as the rubber gloves and the face mask? Is that the new McDonald's bag on the side of the roads?
you know, I don't I, I don't think we've seen any increase in litter, or we certainly received several complaints that they were not open and that people were stockpiling replacement handrails and white materials on site, and then we're a little upset that it, uh, either the recycling center or any of these disposal opportunities weren't available to them. So it is a good thing to get um, this stuff open, and given the fact that most residents are staying home and focusing more on the upkeep of their home, the upkeep of their gardens, that we know that we're generating more of that type of waste. Yeah, personally, I am. Um, so this is a good step to getting, one other, um, you know, municipal operation back online.
Wanted to
as
ask Shaun.
a resident, I can say like I saw like a couple like gloves and masks like on the road. Like people, I don't know if people like thought, oh my God, this has Corona, I need to throw it out the window now. I can't keep it in my car, and they threw it out. But like I did notice that. And the people that usually would walk down the street and pick up the trash, like now they don't want to touch it because they don't want to touch it either,
Right,
especially
right.
something that's a mask or somebody's gloves, because maybe they did have COVID in their car and they threw it out the window. But I think as more services are opening up, like Shaun was saying, like recycling, you're allowed to go like a recycling center now, like this is reopening. We're feeling a little bit more comfortable with how to manage trash. Like there's, the regular amount of trash cans are out by Sandy Beach, and we're just getting a little bit more comfortable handling what normal services would look like. And people, I feel like, are a little bit more confident on how to handle a mask after they've used it. They take it off, they put it somewhere in their car, and don't throw it out the window. I feel like people are getting better about it. Like having that in the car doesn't mean you're going to get anything.
And not to jump the gun, but town hall will be opening soon. It'll be on an appointment basis, but that's going to be the next big step, and there should be a public service announcement to that effect in the next day or so.
That's great, John. I wanted to ask as well, if you're talking about town hall, I know that there are procedures going on, obviously, about opening the school with different scenarios. As far as I know, they have maybe 3 or 4 scenarios that they may choose from. And I understand that there may be a committee in town that is a large group of educators that are involved, I assume, as well as you and Kasey, that participate in that. Have you got any information for us about where that's headed?
Not not much more than you just stated right there. I mean, um, we are contributing to the process, but to, I guess, in this, not even in the school's defense, one of the issues is that they don't have final guidelines from DESE yet, and it's like, how do you build your final plan when you don't know the operational structure that you've got to finally work within, and that that it's kind of handcuffed them. So we are working through different scenarios and basically getting everybody on the same page. We have looked at different tools that can be brought to bear to make managing some of the paperwork that's associated with not even enrollment, with getting to school, getting everybody into the classroom each day. So there's a lot, as much as opening all of these other businesses has been a challenge. This is probably one of the biggest challenges because, even I'm on the phone with the DPH and the Department of Labor on a daily basis, mostly from 10 o'clock to midnight when the whole bunch of us have time to talk. But we don't know what direction DESE's going. So, like, from the state health department, my contacts, no one has really they don't have the insight, or they haven't communicated any insight as to where this is going. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge, but the school has assembled a group of educators, of parents, of medical professionals, virologists, epidemiologists. So we have a good group that is working on everything from transportation to health and sanitation, food, curriculum. So I'm confident that we can get we can get the schools open. It's just I can't speak to what that's going to look like.
So if I can follow up on, because I'm not understanding quite, where does the information, I understand DESE and I understand the Department of Public Health. I was under the impression that they were both state agencies that would be coordinating to come out with the guidelines that they would pass down to both the towns and the school committees. Is that not the case?
No, at least it doesn't like appear that way. DESE released their initial guidance, and then there were some inconsistencies between what DESE had released and then also camp guidance. So they went back and released another edition of that guidance, and then now there's supposed to be a final edition of that guidance, which is supposed to have some more information on the requirements. So for like town hall, for example, like we know in town hall, it's required to screen employees. It's required to maintain a cleaning log, but they didn't give you the form that you would use to maintain that cleaning log. So like we created it for town hall. So, DESE has said, like, hold on, we're going to create those forms, but we don't know what those forms are going to look like or how easy they're going to be able to use. And, they haven't, and like the school's waiting on some more information about how many children can be in the building, because right now it only references a space between children. It obviously provided like its recommendations on children in grade 2 and above wearing masks. And then each town is supposed to submit a plan for the 3 different phases of what reopening would look like. So a full in-person learning, a hybrid model, and then also a full remote model. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem like they're speaking to each other, which makes it really difficult to plan, especially because every town's going to come out with their own stuff.
Right, and you left out one of the most important groups that they're probably not talking to either is the teachers union.
But like, I was going to say, on a positive note, the school has successfully opened and is successfully operating, their ESY program, and that is, we have a great partnership there, where we had the rules, both from DESE and the DPH. We worked in coordination to make sure that we were implementing it, that we rolled it out properly. They screen the kids at the beginning of the day. It gets communicated to the staff at the program as they're arriving. They have an open channel of communication with the health department. And if there's any questions or concerns, that's being brought directly to our attention at any hour of the day. And we have an open channel of communication with the DPH. And one question came in, I think it was last Wednesday, and I had an answer before the meeting was over. So, one would hope that we are able to implement something as successful as the CSY program. And I know that the school put an endless amount of time and effort into making sure that opened and has been operated as safely and smoothly as possible.
And not to beat a dead horse, but we are in the middle of July, and I think August and September are coming up pretty soon. And I'm not going to ask you if you have any idea when they might make a decision, because anybody's guess is what's going to happen from the state.
It'll be on a Friday of a holiday weekend or something like that.
Right.
That's what these are from.
Yeah.
And I also got a question from John Ritz that wanted to know, any idea about the school chorus, band, orchestra? Can they operate? He's remembering that the Hopkins and middle school group with 50 plus students. So
it's that.
Yeah, that adds like a special level of challenge, right? Because anyone that's singing or playing a wind instrument needs 25 feet of distance from the next person next to them. So like that presents a whole new challenge. So, I mean, like the band, like extracurriculars, all that stuff, which I know is like so important. I know it's so important for kids to be able to participate in, but like we just need to get the basics, I feel like, first. And some of that other stuff is just going to have to wait.
I see a lot of plexiglass being purchased here.
But there's a shortage right now. You're about a month out, at least.
Yeah, and it's so expensive.
Yeah.
And then, just as another note, they have yet to release any of the program requirements for fall sports yet. So, there's still, there's a lot still pending, and I know with respect to the sports, and it's the DPH, it's the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs. DESE, and I think the Department of Labor and Standards has a role in that also. So, we just don't have a clear picture of, exactly what that the reopening and all of the extracurricular activities is going to look like.
It's amazing that all these groups are doing all this planning, like the schools are planning this, schools are planning that. All your sporting programs are planning. but until they get direction, they can come up with 3 different plans, plan A, B, and C, and then all of a sudden, okay, here's the rules. Well, A, B, and C won't work there. Now we have to create a plan D. You know,
Yeah.
it'd be nice to give them some indication out there. And is it just because there's too many cooks in the kitchen, or is it they're just being cautious and watching the numbers every day?
I believe a lot of it is just related to caution. I mean, and that's where, at the end of the day, when you're making these decisions and you're helping people implement these programs, it's almost like the thing that's in the back of my head every day is if I'm wrong, that could negatively impact someone's, life. And so there's a lot of weight, behind all of these decisions. And I'll tell you that, there have been some really interesting, 9 to 10 o'clock conversations with the state where, you can hear there are tears, there's screaming, and that my interest is, and it's really emotional. So to for anybody to try to accuse any party that's involved in this process of not having their heart in in it, and really not and just taking this lightly, that's just absolutely not the case.
So now you mentioned last week that
Triple E, what?
Yeah, triple who? West Nile what? Oh, those things don't exist anymore. Anyways, when we talked last week, we mentioned that you just lifted the ban on the reusable bags,
Right.
and now what happens when you do have the stores that don't want the reusable bags in their stores yet because they are being extra cautious? Are they still going to be allowed to use the single-use plastic throughout? Is that still? Can they do that?
Yes.
Okay.
And I came here from working in the grocery industry, and this came up during Tuesday's call, Friday's call, last Tuesday, 2 Tuesdays ago call, that the them coming up and putting this program into place without really notifying anybody really put businesses in a bad spot. You had markets that had stockpiled these plastic bags, now left with this sizable inventory. So our approach is going to be to work with each one of our retail partners so that they're allowed to use the reusable bags. They are allowed to continue to work through their supply of plastic bags. And just like when we introduced the bag regulation into Hopkinton, we will do an assessment of what their on-hand supply is. We will assign a date range in which our expectation is that they'll work through those, and then we'll do a follow-up check. And at that point, we expect that the bag order will be once again in full compliance, and we'll be operating as we were pre-COVID.
All right, that's good to know. And so we have about a minute and a half left. What's on the horizon for, that we should be looking at, or that's coming up next week in town? Anything coming up?
Our focus is going to be getting the public, to start, to refocus on, again, essentials, masks, hygiene, distancing, making sure that they're working with their children to get them kind of acclimated to the process, because at the end of the day, if we want a successful school opening, that is what's going to be required. Kasey, any?
Yeah, no, just the same thing. Like, just making sure that in August we're really focusing on making sure that like the children are educated and we're modeling good behaviors so that when they go back to school in whatever format that they go back, that these things aren't new to them. The teachers are going to be not the first people wearing a mask in front of them, not the first person asking them to frequently wash their hands, that these are going to be like things that kids are ready for.
Well, guys, thanks again. Listen, I only got one advice for you this weekend. Get some rest. Try some sleeping once in a while.
Right.
Hopefully you can. Thank you
Shaun.
again. And we'll see you next Thursday for another update. We got to go, and we're going to send it off to Jim, who previously talked to Christian Navarro. So thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
We'll be talking with Christian Navarro from Platinum Physical Fitness in the office located right here in Hopkinton. So before I let Christian say hello, I've just got to say how excited I am to have him on the show. And the reason is because he is one of those people that went to our website and he filled out the form and he has said, yes, I'd like to share some information and some knowledge with our community. And I am just very grateful for that, Christian. So welcome to our show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. So you work at Platinum Physical Therapy, which is a physical therapy office.
Yep. So we're a PT clinic. We see a variety of different sports, orthopedic, post-operative conditions, anyone with your general aches and pains, anywhere from the high-level athlete to the young kid. We see a bit of everyone.
All right. Now, where did you come from and how did you pick this field?
So I actually am from next door. I'm from Ashland, Mass. I recently just moved back to Ashland actually as of last week, and ended up, I was an athlete growing up, got hurt, which tends to be the mantra of a lot of PTs. Ended up in physical therapy for a while myself. And I kind of fell in love with the field, just being able to help people get to do what they want to do. That's the biggest thing. So I went to UMass Lowell for both my undergraduate and my graduate studies. And my last clinical or my last internship was actually with Platinum. So I graduated from Lowell with my doctorate in 2019, and I just stayed on with them and continued on, and here I am now.
So UMass Lowell, is that what you said?
Yep, UMass Lowell.
I went to UMass Lowell back in the days when it was just U Lowell.
Oh, okay. Was that the Chiefs? Is that, maybe, I don't remember.
The Chiefs.
Gone through a lot of changes. I don't even recognize it anymore.
Oh, I know. It is so different. And my son just graduated 2 years ago.
Wow.
Though I didn't graduate from U Lowell. I started there.
Gotcha.
And my son just graduated from the physics department. And I went back there and wow, is it different. But one thing I will tell you, the club that I started back in the day when I was there is still there on campus. So that was exciting to see.
That's really cool.
But anyways, we're not here about me. We're here about you, Christian. So now, how did you end up at Platinum Physical Therapy?
So with physical therapy curriculums, you have to do required internships, or they call them clinical rotations. And my last or my third one ended up being with Platinum. I applied through our school. It was a 12-week rotation, and then at the end of it, they offered me a spot to stay, and I was more than welcome. I loved the atmosphere. I loved the workers, the people that come in, the community. Really is a really nice knit community, which I've learned to love, type of thing. So it was an easy choice for me to stay on with them.
Oh, that's awesome. And I can't agree with you more. Hopkinton is just a cool place to live and to work.
Totally.
Now, I don't know this, so I'm asking this.
Yeah.
Do you specialize like other medical fields do? You have like a certain injury or part of the body, or do all of you as physical therapists kind of cover all aspects?
Yeah, totally. No, it's a very good question. It's something that as I'm gaining experience in my own practice, starting to find what I tend to like. So as a clinic in Hopkinton, we see a lot of runners. Being on the marathon route has that perk and benefit as well. The Hopkinton Running Club as a community is really supportive. We're very well knit into the community. But myself, I kind of just trying to be a jack of all trades right now, trying to learn as much as possible, see as many different types of conditions, post-ops, surgeries, stuff like that. So I personally don't have it, but you can definitely branch out and find your little niche, which I think is the best part about PT. You can really focus yourself and find what you love to treat.
So, Christian, is your practice open right now? Or are you closed down because of the coronavirus? Or are you only selective patients are coming in?
Yeah, good question. So we are fully open now. We're accepting new patients for both in-person and what we were doing for a little while. We did shut down for in-person sessions for about 6 or 8 weeks. We were doing telehealth, similar to what we're doing right now. We do video conferences with our patients where we can screen them through movements, give them an exercise plan, cue them and guide them through exercise as if we were in person. It's basically everything we would do without the hands-on portion, and it worked really well. We had definitely had a lot of really appreciative patients, and it was great that we didn't just, make all this progress and then this virus hit, and then we just lost all of our progress. So we are still accepting in-person and telemedicine for those who are not comfortable coming in type of thing. We still offer the telehealth going forward.
And so while doing telehealth, you even signed up for more to come on to our show.
Yes, I did. Can't get away from the camera, I guess.
What kind of equipment do you have in your facility in Hopkinton?
So in Hopkinton, we have, we have a squat rack, we have your standard dumbbells, weights, we have different like balance things to work on. We also have an Alter G treadmill, which is one of our kind of fancy devices. It's where you get hooked up into this air bubble and it can displace a percentage of your body weight, where it calibrates your weight. That can really help people both learning how to get back on their feet after surgeries, or it can really help with people doing high volumes of running that just need a little bit of a break, like of the wear and tear in their body. So we have that treadmill, and then we also have different treatment tables. We have people practicing dry needling. We have people practicing with instrument assisted, or we might know as Graston techniques. The basic things that a PT clinic would have in it.
Yeah. Now, my wife is also working from home during this time, and it must be very different not being able to feel the patient and feel the pain or the muscle knot or whatever that you would look for there.
Yeah.
How has that changed how you approach your patients?
Yeah, totally. Especially as we started the telemedicine, it was new for a lot of us type of thing. Some of us had already done a little bit of it, but you learn different ways and different techniques. You do a lot of research, teaching people really how to take care of themselves. And that's our ultimate message with PT, is to empower our patients to be able to, take care of themselves. We're just basically the guides on how to do that. So now that we're back in person, we do, to people's comfort levels, use gloves, and we have our patients and PTs wearing masks. Our patients are screened before coming in for eligibility to even come in, just to make sure both, everyone else is pretty safe. But it has definitely been a learning curve, trying to treat in different ways with everything that's been going on.
Now, I wonder if you can address this.
Yeah.
I know that there's always talk and there's stories about how doctors will prescribe medicine and the patient starts to feel better, so they don't finish the course of antibiotics, and then it eventually leads to superbugs, but all that kind of stuff. Do you have the same issues with patients who you're assigning, movements to do to improve them, and then they go out and they start feeling a little bit better, so then they stop doing them, and now you got to pick up the pieces?
We know it all too well, definitely. What I always tell the people as they're finishing up with me is, you're starting to feel really good, and there's a reason for that. You've put in a lot of hard work, so why not continue to do the thing that made you feel really good? Usually that's being the exercises and the addressment of different maybe mechanics or issues or lifestyle changes that we've made that have contributed to the pain that they were having, type of thing. So sometimes people need someone else, like a husband or a wife, or someone to knock them and say, hey, remember, you got to do your stuff, type of thing. So I usually get accounts. If I treat someone, then I treat someone they know. And they said, oh yeah, they're still doing their stuff and they're doing well. So I know it all too well, definitely.
Right.
Is there a balance to the number of patients how do patients come to you? Are they by referral from other doctors and hospitals? Do they walk in and say, oh, my leg hurts, want physical therapy? How does that work?
So it all usually depends on the insurances that they have. different insurances will require like a doctor's or their primary care's referral type of thing. But we also, in the state of Massachusetts, which is different state to state, have direct access, which is really cool. So if people want to forego their insurance type of thing, we have cash rates or cash pay, where they don't necessarily need like a referral. They could, like you said, come in, walk in and say, hey, I've got pain. And then as PTs, we're trained to kind of screen out and say, all right, this symptoms don't really make sense to me. It doesn't sound like it's maybe muscular or something in nature. It sounds like something else. And we can refer out and say, I think you should actually go see a doctor or something like that. So that's a big part of our schooling and training.
I know that a lot of times in the medical field, when you ignore something, it doesn't get better. And in fact, it gets worse.
Mm-hmm.
My father had a situation with that when he was younger, when he had a back injury. And he started to feel better, thought he could go back to 100%, and he ended up flat on his back for twice as long the next time. What kind of guidance would you give to people who are, maybe they're like, well, I'm just starting to work out or just run, and when do I need to think about muscle soreness versus something I need to have taken a look at?
Yeah, totally. And that's a big question we get with people once they come in after it's gotten past that point type of thing. What I like to tell people is once it starts to really impact your daily life, where you feel like, oh, I fear putting a shirt on or putting my, bending over to put my socks and shoes on has become difficult for me, when it really starts to impact what we call your ADLs, or like things you have to do in everyday life, and you have to almost change your lifestyle because of your pain. I think at that point, it's safe to just get addressed, and it's worth talking to a PT about. I think a lot of times people have maybe a lot of pride and ego comes into play, where they're like, I've got pain. I can deal with it. Just ignore it until it's, too late, where, like you said, they're doubled over. So I think that's on our part, where we need to branch out as physical therapists and really market what we can do for everybody type of thing. Because it could just be that daily ache and pain that might take maybe a couple sessions or a couple just investigative things where we can decide, oh, all you have to do is get new shoes. Or I just said, oh, just don't pick up the box that way, something like that. Or it's something more involved. It all just takes getting in the door.
Christian, you mentioned a few minutes ago your medical training. What's the usual level of schooling that someone in your field would normally have to go through?
Yeah, good question. So I think it was back in early 2000s, it changed from a master's to a doctorate level. So even those who are older clinicians and stuff who have got their bachelor's, were grandfathered in, a lot of have gone back to school to get the clinical doctorate, or the DPT it's called now. But to graduate and to sit for your licensure exam, you need to get your doctorate, which is usually a 3 or 4 year graduate level study.
And how does that work? Do you have to work 80 hours a week during that, or do they have a fix that issue and it's less?
As far as during school, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
So during school, you're full time with classes and stuff. At least each program's a little bit different. So at Lowell, I guess I can speak to, we would have a fall semester, a spring semester, and then a 10-week clinical rotation in the summer. We would come back for another fall and spring semester, another clinical rotation, a fall semester, a clinical rotation. So it was broken up between rotations and didactic material type of thing. So it was tough. I definitely didn't work as much. I was fortunate to be living at home and stuff, commuting, so I could save some money where I wasn't able to work. But I know people that were working full time. I don't know how they did it.
Right. You did it.
Everyone's situation is a little different. Yeah, exactly.
As a professional physical therapist, is it more common to work in an independent practice, or do you usually get affiliated with a hospital or a larger organization?
Yeah, good question. So the field itself is going through different changes, just like any, I guess, other career type of thing. So you'll see some of these bigger chains start to maybe eat up some littler chains. So it all depends on your comfort level. What they preached to us as we searched for our first jobs as new grads was, you could go to an orthopedic clinic like I'm at, 3 on the same street, and they could all be run very differently. Like you said, it could be hospital run, it could be private, it could be a part of a strength and conditioning gym. Each one's a little different. So as PTs, whatever fits your, again, like niche, I think is the way to go about it as a PT type of thing.
And are you fun at parties where people say, "Oh, I just got this thing and I don't know about this. Could you look at that for me?" Or is that something where you would say, "You got to see me in the office"?
It's definitely started to come up at family parties where they're like, "Oh, congrats on graduating. My shoulder is actually hurting a little bit nowadays." So I try my best to say, "Oh, like stick with what you're doing right now with maybe your current PT, or if you really need some help, like come see me in the office." Well, it depends on the person, how much I like you, maybe.
That's true. That's always the case, right?
Of course, yeah.
All right. So you've seen patients, you've seen kind of like what goes wrong and what typically would need to be done to correct.
Mm-hmm.
If you're talking to somebody who is not in a position or currently experiencing a problem that they need to have addressed,
mm-hmm.
do you have certain things that you would tell them? I know one.
Okay.
Squat when you pick up a heavy box, don't lift over to
mm-hmm.
protect your back.
Yeah.
Are there other things like that are just kind of general rules that you would suggest people to look out for or do?
Yeah. So one of the big things that we've been preaching recently with everyone kind of working from home is like your posture. So like everyone at home now maybe is working at something that's not their office desk. It's not maybe as ergonomic, your posture is not as good, and you're sitting over the kitchen table a little bit like this now. So we've done a lot with our social media on Instagram and mostly Instagram, giving just tidbits of information on different things you can do for stretches, strengthenings that are fairly safe for the everyday person to do, to kind of, again, get out of that slouched posture and like static position that everyone might be in because they're working from home now in such an unfamiliar territory or spot type of thing.
One second, Bob. That's really interesting one, because I have noticed that sometimes I don't notice and I'm working and I'm editing video here, and all of a sudden I'll feel like, whoa, I'm like this. I'm like hunched over like crazy. And then I like make myself sit back up, and you can really feel the difference.
Yeah, no, totally. One of the biggest things is just awareness. So we like to maybe tell people, set an alarm on your phone for every 30 minutes that just pops up, and you can just be like, all right, let me just shake it off. Let me get my shoulders out of my ears. Let me just relax a little bit, or use a bright pink sticky note on your computer screen whenever you see it. Reset Bob, a little bit.
I'm going to let you talk next, Bob, but I have to finish up with this. Well, I'm thinking of it now. So now that I got you, Christian, the thing that I am very worried about in life is I see that there are people that as they get older, their head comes more forward. And it looks kind of like, I mean, not so much a hunch, but just like their head's very forward.
Yeah.
So I have my car seat straight as a rail, and I like always sit back and put my head back because I'm worried about that happening. Is that just genetics? Is that if you're going to be that way, you're going to be that way? Or is that something that you could combat?
Yeah, so it's something that, static posture is something that we definitely address. It's tough to always make the, X plus Y equals Z comparison, where if you have bad posture, you will have pain. They just tend to correlate rather than causate very well type of thing. So if it's something that we can change, like you said, with little things like adjusting your seat or making sure your computer monitor is up at eye level instead of down really low, so you're not just doing this the whole time. When you're using your phone, similarly, like you're not just looking down, but you actually maybe bring it up to eye level. Doing little changes like that can make a bigger impact. A lot of little things, instead of making one big change, a lot of little things add up to a bigger change.
So do you think there is a significant aspect of nurture versus just nature where you're born that way? You think that like you could definitely maybe avoid something?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. So there's definitely always changes that can be made. I would say even some people, everybody's spine, everybody's body, everyone's anatomy is a little bit different, but I think there's always room to be made for improvement. maybe it's more for one person than the other, but there's always room for improvement type of thing.
Christian, what I had were two questions, probably. Sure. I'll phrase it this way, that for Platinum, are there different levels of patients that will go to Platinum? Is there a patient that you can't provide enough attention to, or the equipment doesn't match their needs and you'll have to refer them somewhere else? Or do you just take everybody?
Yeah, so we try our best. I mean, we're pretty well equipped to see most patients, I would say. But that's definitely within the scope of a PT to recognize maybe, hey, I think like you're doing a good job, but I think you could maybe just use a little bit more of what I just can't offer you right now. Haven't run into that just yet with Platinum, which again, I'm very thankful for and lucky that they have a lot of equipment that we can use. But it definitely is something like, say, someone comes in, maybe this is just an example off the top of my head, because we do see a general, maybe neurological condition, maybe people that have had strokes or someone that has MS, maybe our clinic, because it's on the second floor, maybe just isn't, as accessible, or they can't get up on our tables. We could say, hey, these people over here have this clinic and they see a lot of people who maybe have had strokes type of thing. So knowing, what's around in your community is also super important, and to recognize and put your ego aside and say, hey, I can't offer this person the best care, so let me try to find that for them.
And the reason I asked the question, I'll be honest, I'm only a couple of days older than Jim, but I do have a lot of older friends that have had problems with diabetes and have had to have, as delicate way to put it, had toes amputated, and then they have to have physical therapy. Is that some kind of therapy that Platinum offers?
We don't maybe see it as often, but I mean, it is something that we could definitely address as far as balance issues, especially say after an amputation, stuff like that. We see a pretty wide variety, and if it is something we could try for a session or two, see the logistics of it all, like see if the patient is comfortable getting in and out and comfortable with the clinic and their PT, and then kind of go from there. It is interesting. No, I did a rotation. So with PT school, you do both varieties, or a lot of varieties of different types. So I did a rotation at South Shore Hospital on a med-surg floor, where I saw a lot of post-operative care with people who had had amputations and stuff like that. So I've worked with a lot of those different types of patients. So everyone gets a little bit of a mix and background before, going into the professional field.
So losing a few toes would make you need to have physical therapy to be able to walk properly?
Maybe for one person, yes, and one person, no, type of thing. It all depends on everything else. Maybe their previous level of activity, if they were already maybe start trying to be as conservative with their management of maybe say diabetes, or someone that had no care and just, it's come to that point type of thing. So their balance probably might have been bad before that incident type of thing. Everyone kind of comes with different factors to them for sure.
Right. Now, I know that certain professions have certain seasons for things. For example, if you were an allergy doctor, it's hay fever season. If you were in an ER, there may be snowblower season, if you know what I mean. I'm wondering what kind, do you have seasons that you see certain clusters of things?
I would say so, definitely. I mean, summertime sometimes tends to be a little slower because everyone's on vacation. Everyone's honestly feeling really good. The stress of work maybe isn't hitting as hard. Fall, usually the fall sports with high school hits, people start to play and train more than they were before, start to get injured. Winter, like you said, people slip and fall. Springtime, same thing. And then we're lucky again enough to be right near the marathon start. So we start to really see a increase in volume around that, usually March, April type of season. Might likely going to be later, more September this year, just unfortunately with the change. But
right.
Yeah.
What do typical injuries look like during marathon season?
A lot of times it's people that maybe are training for their first marathon and have done too much or not enough, or it's something maybe that, like you said earlier on, just a little bit of ache and pain that they just ignored, and now it's become an issue maybe a couple weeks ahead of the race type of thing. but we've had a pretty good track record. And we have really great PTs with lots of experience, training runners that have gotten people to the start line, even coming in, pretty shortly. We recommend coming in way beforehand, before it becomes crunch time. Like you said before, if you have a little ache, we do also free screenings at PT where we just have like a 20-minute conversation and we just go over their pain and we can say, hey, try these things, maybe see if that helps. If not, let's come back and do a full evaluation and get you started on a case type of thing.
I don't know what the correct word is. I don't want to say heartbreaking, but when somebody is like, when you see patients and you say, wow, and you say to yourself, I wish they came in a month ago. I wish they came in 2 weeks ago. What typically does that look like? And what does that do for their recovery?
Yeah, it just maybe changes expectations type of thing. And a lot of what we do is really education. So sometimes we have to be that bad guy and say, hey, like maybe this season isn't like the right time to play. Like we have to think bigger picture because we're at this point, let's take care of this now so you can have a future next season type of thing, instead of just trying to push through and then, risking re-injury or making it worse type of thing. The worst thing is to tell people to slow down, which I'm not really usually a proponent of. I'm rather, let's modify your activity, just change it up a little bit rather than saying rest, do nothing, because that's also never usually good for people. So sometimes we got to play that bad guy.
Sure. Bob, you had something?
Well, I don't usually have caustic comments to make, but I was wondering if during your training, sometimes people can be kind of against doing their physical therapy. And if you have them in a session and you're asking them to raise their arm or stand up straight, do they give you psychological training to go along with the PT so you can try and gradually get them into the idea of doing this for their benefit?
Yeah, totally. That's a big piece of our schooling, actually, is just learning how to build rapport with someone. Because if you can't make your rapport with your patient, they're not going to trust you, and they're less likely to do what they need to do, even if it's the best thing for them. If they don't trust you, they have no reason to do it. So from day one, we always say is building that rapport with that patient and instilling their confidence in you is really the biggest thing, in my opinion.
And do you, in your practice, I don't know if you skew more towards athletes or more towards not, but do you have a wide range of patients in age?
Yeah, definitely a wide range. I mean, I've seen people as young as under 10 to 90s type of thing. I've seen a little bit of everything, which again, I'm thankful for, trying to just build my experience as I am entering the field. I had a background again in athletics and stuff, playing soccer, running track in high school, played on the club soccer team at Lowell. So I love athletes myself, but I'd love, the middle-aged person with back pain just as much too. Everyone's got a little bit to offer.
Are you currently playing sports?
Well, I was going to join a men's league and then this thing all hit. So
a men's league for soccer?
Yeah, for soccer. I think it was through some Boston league, I guess, with some friends from the club team at Lowell. So.
And what do you do before you exercise to prepare? Are you a proponent of stretches or some other thing?
Yeah, at least some form of warming up, which I have learned as I've gone on, especially after college. I'll go back for an alumni game at soccer, and I've had instances where I don't stretch or I don't warm up and do some things like that, and I'm hurting for a week. And wow. I was like, I used to, back in high school, be able to play 7 days straight and have no problem. And you hit 25 and something happens, apparently.
You know what? Get ready, because it's more than just that. One day you're going to turn around and say, I used to be able to eat anything I wanted to, and now I can't.
Yeah, that's right.
And what about a cool down? What do you think of that?
Yeah, no, cool down is just as important as your warm up type of thing. You think about if you're going and you just stop all of a sudden, how just detrimental that can be sometimes. Maybe some people can, again, get away with it until they can't, really, is what it is.
Okay. All right. Well, Christian, we have flown through this half hour. I want to thank you again for sharing your knowledge with us and our viewers.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me. And of course, again, if anyone needs it, we are open. We're accepting patients in person and telehealth at everyone's comfort level.
Okay. You have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you. Take care.